Welcome back to Tiny Tea Gaming. Today, I'm going to be talking about whether Leman Russ would ever return, and if he did, what would he do? Before I get into it though, thanks to everyone who's liked and subscribed. And if you haven't already, then please do. I upload my thoughts on Warhammer 40k lore and what I want to see in the setting as regularly as possible. So, getting into it. Primarch of the Space Force Legion and then the chapter, Leman Russ thought of himself as the Emperor's executioner, though unfortunately the only known Primarch he attempted to execute was Magnus, who was at that point in time still somewhat loyal to the Emperor. Hailing from Fenris, he was shaped by the brutal world he called home and its quasi-religion based about the planet. Stalwart and loyal, he would take the fight to Horus, even inflicting a wound upon his erstwhile brother before being wounded himself, though this attack would cost him much of his remaining legion. I can't say Leman was the best of the loyalist Primarchs during the heresy, though his legion fought hard. He was somewhat misguided and wasted tens of thousands of his men during his raid on the Vengeful Spirit, which, as we know with hindsight, an entire legion would have been much better served fighting alongside the White Scars, Imperial Fists and Blood Angels at the Siege of Terra, which could have in fact prevented the Emperor ever being wounded by Horus or having to ascend to the throne. Loyal though, he would eventually leave his chapter, declaring he would return at the Wolf Time. His 13th Great Company too had disappeared into the Eye of Terror, but now they are returning sporadically. Leman Russ would be an incredible asset to the Imperium, simply because he is another fully loyalist Primarch whose intentions are not ambiguous. He has no ulterior motive, no grudges to settle, or anyone he needs to get back at. He may not be the incredible logistician like Guilliman or tactician like the Lion, but he would be a rallying figure, especially if he were to appear in Imperium Nihilus. Like any returned Primarch, it would be incredible to see him rallying disparate Imperial forces, or even return with what is left of the 13th Great Company, bringing potentially hundreds of loyal veteran Astartes back to the Imperium. Being that he is such a ferocious fighter, he could even go up against one of the returned demon Primarchs, dueling them or even banishing them. With the new Primaris successors of his own bloodline, he could gather them in almost legion strength, creating a gathered force that could strike out cohesively at the Emperor's foes. Now, I understand that with the Codex Astartes, there can't be any legions, but if he were to be careful with how he utilised his warriors and his sons, I definitely think it could happen. I do believe there could be a little discontent between himself and Guilliman or the Lion, but I would like to think that in the current setting, the Loyalists would understand that there is no time for pettiness, as the empire they bled to create stands on the precipice once more. Of course, there would be some animosity though, as was displayed by the Primarchs through the Great Crusade and even into the heresy on the Loyalist side. But that sort of childish behaviour wouldn't really have a place, and it really denigrates from the overall setting and the storytelling at this point, I believe. I'm unsure whether Russ would have an issue with the Emperor being deified, as he and the Space Force he once commanded hold their own belief system centred around their homeworld Fenris. Russ's return would absolutely be a net positive for the Imperium and could be the tipping point that sees the Emperor's forces gain the upper hand against the archenemy, even if he were to lead combined Space Wolf and successor forces against a different faction within the setting. I think that would be really exciting. Perhaps we could see a separate Tyrannic War, and if we had a separate Tyrannic War, it'd be really good to have a complete focus on that, leaving other areas to be focused on by the other Primarchs or other Imperial commanders like Dante. I think with the Space Wolves combined with their successor chapters completely against the Tyranids, then that would be really interesting, and it could see whole Imperial worlds saved. And it would be a good chance to highlight the new successor chapters as well, and bring out some more characters and named figures so that you can have more models made by Games Workshop and have a really good new series of books that can run concurrent or parallel to a series like the Dawn of Fire or the other series that have come out recently that are really good, like the Plague Wars. Or they could go down the other side of nameless faces in a sea of enemies and have them fight the orcs. I know the Space Wolves already during the Dawn of Fire series have been fighting the orcs, and that was really good to see, especially in the book Wolf Time, which was a play on words because when that book was announced, everyone thought that Leman Russ was actually coming back, so that was a disappointment into itself. But if we had a focus on the Space Wolves and their successors fighting the orcs and then having Leman Russ return randomly through that, I think that'd be really exciting, and that could lead into a whole host of novels, models, even potentially video games in the long run. But that'd be really good to see because Leman Russ is a fan favourite. Or if we had him come back, gather his Space Wolves and successors, and then fight alongside Guilliman or the Lion, that'd be really interesting as well to see two Primarchs working together, fighting side by side. Yes, there'd be some differences and disagreements, but that would be an interesting setting instead of just this 10,000-year-old potential animosity between the Lion and Russ, but no real culmination or resolution of that, because the Horus Heresy setting and the Great Crusade setting was really enjoyable, but now the 41st millennium is completely different and things do need to change with it, in my opinion. And I think that's what makes it so interesting, because we have the Primaris Marines, we have Belisarius fixing stuff or trying to fix it. We have Guilliman coming back and acting as the Avenging Son, whilst the Lion has come back and completely changed his attitude. He's now the protector. He's asking his fallen sons if they want to join him, not just simply seeking to command out of dint of being a Primarch. So it'd be really interesting to see if there would be a attitude or even a culture shift from the Leman Russ of the Great Crusade and Horus Heresy to the Leman Russ of the modern day. Is he old like the Lion? Has he aged 10,000 years because he's been fighting in the Warp or the Webway or whatever? Or is he just as young as he was when he left? It would be great to see Leman Russ return and take the fight to his father's enemies once more. But that's just my thoughts. Please let me know what you think in the comments below, and if you've enjoyed this video, then please give it a like and subscribe. It really helps the channel grow and gets this out there. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.